Hello, everybody. Again, this is Cyrus Kirkpatrick with Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics, where we talk about life after death, supernatural research, psychic powers, out of body experiences, and a lot more. Right now, we're talking about the middle astral plane and why it's such an important place and gets very little attention or noteworthiness in modern metaphysical and afterlife related literature. So I'm here to hopefully elaborate upon that and provide a little bit of clarity about what this kind of world is all about, why it's not always reported as much as it probably should be, and a bit about philosophy and psychology behind why this is. So this is a little bit of an advanced topic. I think to understand what I'm talking about here, you probably have to first understand just the basics of like life after death, astral projection, near-death experiences, where we go when we die, and things like that. If you can't even, reconcile with life after death, or you can't reconcile the fact that there's parallel dimensions that are sometimes oddly similar to this kind of existence, with solidarity. If you haven't gotten over that hump yet, you're probably not going to be able to understand this concept, this video, very easily. It might just, it might be like hitting a brick wall. Your mind is just, you can't get over that. And some people who are just trying to comprehend the idea that the consciousness can separate outside the brain, they're really far away from getting to that point where there's other density level dimensions that are like concurrent to our own that we can travel into. Weird stuff, yet it's completely highly reported by deceased people through powerful mediums, as well as people who travel there in out-of-body experiences and occasionally near-death experiences too. So that's a nice preface before I get into the topic. The next preface is that before I get into this more, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you don't know how, you have to be logged into your Google account, and then it'll come up as a big red button. I need those subscribes literally to keep the channel going. I almost closed down the channel last week because I think YouTube was being fussy and they stopped promoting the channel. So I can see in the analytics, like as a recommended page, it just dropped like this, and then I didn't get a new subscriber in 3 days because YouTube didn't like something I put up here. Who knows what it is. And so, they did a little shadow restriction, and then they opened it back up again. One reason YouTube does that is if they don't see a channel staying popular enough, then they will just squash it and get rid of it. As opposed to like normal, like as an example, like a website, just using the Google algorithms. Like, I can make a website 6 years ago and not add any more content to it and still get 50 or 100 hits a day from like an article that was popular. YouTube doesn't work that way. So it's really difficult. That's why I need your help. Thanks for putting up with that little PSA. Okay, so to continue, the middle astral plane, this is an esoteric terminology, may have very little to do with reality. But when we see the maps or the gradients of what we call the afterlife, generally people mention the middle astral very briefly because human psychology is all about getting to the goal, scoring the touchdown, making the $1 million, whatever it is. And human psychology is less about the journey. I would argue that this is a limitation of human psychology, pretty bad limitation. So as a result, through like spiritualist teaching, we hear about the maps of how we progress as souls, and it's like the end game goal, joining with the causal plane, joining with the mind of God. You can go back a few videos that talk about the causal plane, the non-physical existences. End goal, get to the top, get to the end of the game, join back with God. That's it. Ta-da! Finished. And it's like this linear path, and so I would say every step along that path gets less and less attention. We don't stop to think, well, maybe that's not the end goal. Maybe the end goal of life is much more transcendent than that. It can be almost be different for every single soul that exists. Maybe there isn't this one linear path that we're all on. By the same note, how do we know that every single realm of existence is better than the next? Because that's such a subjective terminology. For some people, certain things appeal to their unique personalities, their unique characteristics of that soul, that it doesn't appeal to other people. That's called diversity, and it's a beautiful thing. So because of this psychological sort of limitation, people overlook places that they consider to be not as exalted. So, like if you look at George Moody's, I'm confusing Raymond Moody and George Meek. If you look at the George Meek's maps of heaven when he was going out of body a lot and doing scientific testing and that type of thing, he puts like the celestial level on top, and then the middle astral is directly above where we are right now. And then you can look at the works of people like William Bullman and Jürgen Ziwe, and they do talk at length about this level, but it's not necessarily in the best light. It's sort of this place that's not as nice, not as good as the other places. So we should just ignore it, move on, move past it as quickly as possible. Now, for me, with my out-of-body experiences, if you want to look at that map, I would say I've been to two kinds of realms: this middle astral and the higher astral. The higher astral is not connected to like an earthly environment so much as like you might see in the photo that I have. It might be I should say the painting that I have up. It might be much. It can be very, very beautiful. It could be like my experiences have been like in beautiful temples. It's much about like learning and spirituality and things like that. Whereas the middle astral, very nitty gritty. Just like this world, but also a lot more beautiful than this world. But it doesn't have, it's not so much about self-development and love and harmony as much as it is about lots of people going back into like a melting pot environment in these kind of pseudo to mostly physical realms, and exploring existence in that manner. So it is a lower density than this kind of like more sublime higher astral plane, but it is also higher density, more exalted than the realm we're in right now. So it's this kind of in between area, but it's not really like just in between area. What it is it's a copy of this planet. So this entire planet is one layer of the onion up, and you enter into this higher density version of this planet. So every city, every topographical location has an equivalent on the middle astral level, and these are very well populated places. It's an entire alternate version of this planet. So there's a Los Angeles, there's a Phoenix, Arizona, there's a Tokyo, there's a London, and it's still what we call the afterlife. So it's populated probably at least 50% by people from this world who die, and then they go on and continue their lives on that side. And it's a very magical existence where thoughts are manifestable. Is that a word? Able to be manifested. So you can perform kind of like magical feats that you cannot do here. You can learn even on that side to teleport yourself around or fly, although fewer people do it in like in sort of higher astral gradients. But it is possible to do those things while at the same time leading an existence that is still very similar to the life you may have led here. You're still a human. You're in the astral physical body, which still kind of has like flesh and blood, but you're not necessarily aging, or you don't have to worry about disease. Yet you can still be part of that society, work jobs, and live a life. Why is this place so important? For one, it specifically nourishes a creative potential that human souls have. Okay, so human souls are obsessed with this thing called the hero's journey. So that involves a path of self-awakening, that involves challenge and overcoming a great adversary experiencing like a dark night of the soul and coming into an awakening process. We could argue that's why we're incarnated in this density, which is so difficult to manifest those types of experiences. Well, on that middle astral level, you can still have those experiences where I would argue you cannot on higher density levels. The higher astral, as beautiful and exalted and grandiose as the realms above the middle astral are, you will no longer be dealing so much with conflict. It will no longer be such a melting pot of souls. On the middle astral level, there's human souls, but there's extraterrestrial souls, and there's all kinds of crazy non-human entities and lots of stuff, all types of people all mingling together. And some are good and some are evil or chaotic. So you're pushing yourself to have like a challenge to deal with things that you wouldn't be able to deal with, that you wouldn't be able to be tested on higher astral gradients. And that, my friends, is why people incarnate on this world, on the earth plane, and why people choose lives on the middle astral level, specifically so that they can be involved in kind of the hero's journey of self-development, which you can't always do if everything in life is just handed to you. Okay, so a lot of you guys, and I mean this lovingly, but in regards to just about everybody on the planet, you go through life in a trance, just day after week after week, it's the same thing. And then you think, when I die, I don't want any problems or any issues or any negativity. You only say that right now because your life is such a boring routine. The truth is that when you get to a point of no negativity and it's pure bliss and harmony, there's this creative element of our souls that itches to experience, I wouldn't say dysfunction, but to experience like challenge, to go back into the fray, test yourself, test your might, test your capabilities. How do you handle different situations? How do you handle challenge? How do you handle the darkness? And how do you grow as an individual through it? I'm this kind of personality. That's why I've been to 30 countries. I travel the world because I enjoy the whole process, whether it's conflict, whether it's almost being robbed in the Balkans by a group of gypsies, to all kinds of crazy things that have happened to me in this life. Going to North Korea, having to bow before statues of Kim Jong-il, and all kinds of, crazy things that have happened to me in my life. I enjoy all of it because it's an adventure, and that's what human creative potential wants. Think of one film, one video game, one fiction book without an antagonist, without like a hero's journey involved. Good luck. And you won't be able to find those things on the upper spectrum of the beautiful astral conditions, which are on a vibration of pure love and harmony. As much as it may seem like a wonderful place to be, and in many ways it is on those higher levels, souls on those levels, they desire ultimately to go back to the lower density conditions to be able to have the kinds of crazy adventures you can only have on those levels. It's almost like the upper astral really is about R&R, rest, and regaining your energy and being in this condition of immense love and happiness among people, to recharge your batteries until you decide to go back and begin developing yourself more and having more adventures. So I don't think you have to reincarnate on Earth to have to do it. So that's where I think a lot of people get this information wrong, is they think, well, I'm going to go to the afterlife, a quote life between lives, and then come back to Earth, when this Earth plane is freaking way harder than anywhere else. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, the fact that you're incarnated on this plane right now is proof of what I'm saying, because you incarnated here for these reasons. That's why on your higher self you decided to come here. So you can disagree with what I'm saying all you want, but there's no escaping the fact that you made that decision already to come here. So at some point you're thinking along this level as your higher self. You're hanging out in the upper astral, the causal plane, this little orbital light, little wisp floating around in a sea of lava lamp colors with like millions of other little wisps, and you're like, man, I want to experience some challenge, adventure, and conflict. I'm out of here, guys. I'm heading to the Earth plane. They're like, no, don't go, don't go. That place is terrible. You have to poop and use the bathroom, and you throw up if you mix beer and wine. Don't do it, don't do it. Like, no, guys, I'm out of here. I'm going into a body. You came here. Now, with the middle astral, so this is why the middle astral is such an important place, metaphysically speaking. You don't necessarily have to come back to the earth plane to have adventures. And me, I love fantasy books and art and stories, things like that. So, where can I experience that? Where can I experience antagonists? Maybe I don't always want everything just to be peace and love and harmony. Maybe I want some of that conflict because I like the hero's journey. Where is that going to happen? It's not going to happen on the upper astral, as beautiful and exalted as that place is. It's going to happen on the middle astral. The same place that I go to most commonly when I go out of body, the place I report on the most, because a lot of the mainstream out of body authors don't do it. They disregard everything I just said because they're so fixated on this one goal. I must ascend to the highest level. I must ascend to the highest level. They cannot see the forest through the trees. As well-intentioned as Tom Campbell is, and Bullman, as my friend Jurgen, as Bruce Moen, some of the others I haven't studied as much, as well-intentioned and as knowledgeable and wise as all these people are, I see a kind of a disregard about the hero's journey, the power of challenging oneself, how conflict is sometimes necessary, and being in a physical solid place gives us lessons to be able to learn things, experience things, write stories, and have adventures that maybe we can't do it on the more exalted levels of consciousness where there is no conflict. So here's just some thoughts to think about. Tell me what you think. And if you like this stuff, head to afterlifetopics.com. You can join the Facebook group Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. You could also buy a couple of my books like Understanding Life After Death, The Afterlife and Beyond. You could join the classes. We meet twice a week for big, in-depth discussions about these subjects. By doing so, you become a patron of my work at $30 a month so that I can afford luxuries on the earthly plane, like being able to buy food that I use to keep my earthly vessel going, which is apparently necessary to keep operating down here. How crazy is that? Alright, I'll see you all on the next video.